All right, so objective a little bit for today, instead of I can solve equations, we're going to be looking at multi-step equations. So the introduction we had to solving equations, each of them had 2 steps that we needed to cancel. So these are just going to have more than 2 steps. All right, looking at our equations, what I noticed on my first example is that I have like terms on the left-hand side. So my step 1, each side of the equal sign as needed. Alright, so my like terms are 6p minus 3p. Make sure that you recognize that that subtraction sign goes with the 3p term. So when I simplify that, I get 3p minus 2 equals 16. And then I'm going to follow my solving equations rule that I looked at last time. So I'm going to use order of operations to determine what to cancel. And then right after I do that, I'll use my golden rule to cancel it. All right, so if I knew the value of p, I would multiply it by 3 and then subtract 2. So using order of operations backwards, I'm going to cancel my subtraction. Remember, on the side with the variable, I cannot stress this enough. On the side with the variable, you don't actually perform the operation. You use it to cancel something. So don't even think about adding 2, just cancel the subtracting 2. We want to simplify and isolate our variable. 16 plus 2 gives me 18. So now all I have left is 3 times p. So to cancel my multiplication, I will divide. Again, on the side with the variable, I'm not actually dividing, I'm canceling. Simplifying to p, and then 18 divided by 3 is 6. Forgetting my process, I'm still not used to this. So step 4, I repeat steps 2 and 3 as needed. And step 5, check. All right, so I'm going to substitute 6 back into my original equation, which I'm not remembering off the top of my head. So into the original equation, not the simplified equation, because maybe we made a mistake simplifying, and that got us the wrong answer. So going all the way back to 6 times, substituting 6 for p, minus 2 minus 3, substituting 6, equals 16. So now I'm going to use order of operations to simplify. 6 times 6 gives me 36. And I can simplify my 3 times 6 as well, which is 18. And then I will subtract left to right. 36 minus 2 is 34. And here's how I subtract 18. I actually subtract 20. Oops, thought I had an eraser here. And then I add the 2 back on. Or you could subtract 10 and then subtract 8. So just to show you what I'm doing in my head, I don't ever write this down, but this is what I'm doing in my head. I like to subtract the 20 and then add the 2 back on. Actually, I've got my parentheses in the wrong spot. So 34 minus 20 is 14. Adding the 2 back on, I get 16, and it checks out. Example 2, so think about the process that we have in the right-hand column and try and solve this one. Pause the video and then come back when you're ready to check. So in this one, there's actually 2 different ways to solve this equation. So I'm going to show you both methods, and then you can choose the one that you like better. So I'm going to start with the method that you most likely tried if you paused the video, and that is simplifying by using the distributive property. And then use order of operations backwards, and the golden rule, I kind of combine those 2 steps. So if I knew what k was, I would multiply by 8 and then add 16. So I'm going to start by canceling the 16. Remember, on the side with the variable, Don't actually subtract, don't perform the operation, just cancel. On the right hand side, I'm going to, since 16 is 4 away from 20, I'm going to subtract 20 from 64 and get 44, and add the 4 back on to get 48. Dividing both sides by 8 using the golden rule, I'm canceling on the side with the variable. I'm not actually performing the operation. You're probably getting sick of hearing me say that, but I cannot stress that enough because of the mistakes that I have seen students make. 48 divided by 8 is 6. And then we would check our answer, but what I want to do, since I'm kind of over time on this video, is show you the second method. And this method involves skipping step 1 and jumping right into step 2. If I knew what k was, I would first add 2 because of the parentheses, and then multiply by 8. So the first thing that I will do is cancel the multiplication of 8 by dividing. 8 divided by 8 cancels on the side with the variable, leaving me with k plus 2. And on the left-hand side, 64 divided by 8 is 8. And then I would cancel by subtracting 2. And 8 minus 2 is 6. So I'm going to count that as my check since I solved it 2 different ways. But notice that the math on my second method, which I actually did what looks like my first method, was easier because you know what 64 divided by 8 is. That's one of your multiplication charts. And then subtracting 2 is not challenging. Versus the first method, we had to do 64 minus 16. And that math, for most of you, is a little bit more challenging than the math we had to perform on the second method. So just know that there's more than one option to solve an equation. So if you and your group mate have a different process, that doesn't mean that either one of you is wrong.